Everybody, this is Steve of the Common Milkweed Native Plant Nursery, and it's high summer here in central Ohio, which for us means we take more time to observe and contemplate the things we're doing to see if they make sense. And one thing we've been noticing a lot lately is the prevalence of native vines that have been coming back. I call them freebies, but around here, if you just stop mowing grass, you get a lot of freebies, and some of them are really great vines. Like, for example, here is a native grapevine, which not only provides different visual interest for us, but also different structure for nesting birds and also food in the developing grapes, as you can see. So really, for us, it's been almost a paradigm shift because especially for me, because in the past I've done weed management work, and vines are kind of implicitly or explicitly something you just kind of kill. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but for us here, we have had a complete paradigm shift in that we don't really do anything with our vines except, well, more so promote them than anything. In this particular example, we have a grapevine almost completely covering an eastern red cedar, growing up through it and using this tree as a scaffold almost. So why do we do that? Well, like I said, the vine provides a lot of habitat and food value for wildlife, which we're trying to promote, and also it's not harming the cedar. It might actually harm the individual cedar tree, but we have so many and they come up themselves as freebies around here that it doesn't really matter. So at some point, either the vine is going to win or the cedar is going to win, or they might just coexist together, which is a lot of what we have seen with other species. One example of a win-win for us is native rose. This is, I think, pasture rose. We were told that by somebody with who would know. And so we have these coming up all over our property. Now you might be thinking, is that a vine? Well, it kind of acts like a vine. And in terms of our management, that's how we're treating it. So as I zoom out, you can see that there's, well, let me zoom in on these, back amidst the other woody vegetation. For a while we thought, well, we need to control the other woody vegetation, so this rose bush, shrub, vine, whatever you want to call it, but it's a climber, so it acts like a vine. And so we were going to be controlling woodies so it could thrive, and we just didn't get around to it, and all of a sudden we've got it climbing probably 25 feet up into the woody plants. And you can see in the background maybe, but if you can't, trust me, there's blooming rose probably 25 feet high in the tops of these small trees. Well, if we'd gotten rid of all those small trees, those rows would be more like these, which kind of form a mound amidst themselves instead of climbing up amidst the other woody vegetation. So that gives us two forms of this freebie native plant. One is a mounding form, which is probably going to be better for nesting birds, and a climbing form, which who knows, it's better for maybe pollinators to access it at different levels, and also for just the ability for it to survive, since it can get too light with its leaves by climbing. Another great native vine, this one is called wild cucumber, not to be confused with burr cucumber, which I believe is invasive and I think not native, but just do your research. We got this from a good friend of ours, and it, I believe, is an annual. So one year you'll have tons and another year you won't. This year's kind of a medium year. It's climbing on our chicken coop aviary, both on the inside and outside. And so we don't have chickens right now, but when we did, it provided shade for them, and also an interesting environment for them to have when they were indoors. And also, when it flowers, it has the most incredible smelling fragrant flowers. I would say probably almost as good as common milkweed. I'm going to walk back here. Also on the chicken coop is another great native vine, Virginia creeper, which has a splendid fall color. We're not there yet, but we will be. And it started out on this pine tree, but started creeping around our chicken coop. And of course, the old weed manager in me was like, I got to do something about that. But I didn't. So the power of procrastination is awesome. And let's check it out now. It's basically covered 2/3 of this side of this building, which used to stress me out because I'm thinking, oh, well, is it going to hurt the paint? But in the end, it's not really about me, is it? It's about the wildlife we want to promote and help, and about the inspiration we want to get from plants, which is way more inspiration than paint. So we think it's beautiful. If you go to any Ivy League college, they're going to have this picture on their cover. Or places in Europe, people love vines. We can love them here. Looks like there's some kind of rollers. Jennifer knows more about these, but there's some kind of critters living in these apparently. There's a lot of them and they're not well known, but they're definitely taking advantage of this. So another reason I'm glad that I didn't try to eliminate it. I'm out here by our roadside now, which if you've watched our videos regularly, you know our place is pretty close to the road and we have a lot of road frontage. So we've always promoted thickets and thick things on the edge so that we can have privacy. And here you can see a native grape growing amidst native elderberry, and also climbing up these ash trees. So you might be thinking again, even though I've told you not to worry about it, it's stressful to see all these vines climbing up your other vegetation, because isn't it going to kill everything? Aren't they going to strangle everything? A lot of this stuff that we're new to this continent, most of us, and so we don't know, we don't have a deep-rooted knowledge of a lot of these native plants. So what they do is kind of a mystery, and also sometimes you can feel uncomfortable with it, not because things aren't going as they're supposed to, but because we don't know what they're supposed to be doing. It's kind of like puberty. You feel kind of weird and then it's over, and thank God. But it's the same with this. You eventually get comfortable with this, and you can see the benefits of just not doing things for a while and observing. And the thing with vines is, really all you got to do is wait till the wintertime, and if you have ones that are more prevalent than you want, or greater densities, you just cut them off and make them start over. So not a big deal. The key is waiting, hitting pause, and observe, even though it might feel awkward. But the benefit for us here is, look at this profusion of vegetation that we get, and then the vines just basically fill in between the shrubs. Slightly down the road a little bit, I found native bittersweet, more native grape, and I'm not going to go all the way down there, but there's trumpet creeper as well. And as I pan up, you might be thinking, oh, Steve, what about these power lines? Isn't the power line company going to come in here and spray this or mow it? Well, probably not. They have plenty to do, and when they go around looking for more stuff to do, they don't see this as a problem, because first of all, they know their plants, so they're going to be looking at this saying, oh, well, they've got mainly shrubs, let's not worry about this. And then so how do we maintain it in native shrubs? Basically, in the wintertime, we go through here when it appears to be impenetrable right now, but in the wintertime, when all the leaves are down, you can just walk through here with a pair of loppers and take down all the woody trees that are going to get tall enough to threaten the power line. So that's what we do. You can spray the stumps with herbicide if you want, or you can just let them regrow. We do a little bit of both. but don't do anything with herbicide until you know what you're doing, as you might hurt yourself, other people, and plants that don't need to be dead by not knowing what you're doing. So I'm pausing because there's a car. So lest you think we are completely zen about vines, we're not. So it's a process. Here in our garden, which is what I'm showing right now, kind of looks like a permaculture garden. That's what we're going to say anyway. And we also have an area that we converted to native shrubs because it was so weedy that it's just impossible to have a garden in it. And one of the weedy things was this bindweed, which you might, I think it's in the morning glory family, but it gets pretty white flowers, but it's quite aggressive, and you can see that it's just twining in through here in huge mats. And it's wanting to go jump the trail and get into the garden. It is ensnarling. I don't use that word much with vines anymore, but in this case, and with things like kudzu, they're a problem, but mainly because they're not native, and so they're not co-adapted with these other plants. Here it is climbing up milkweed and probably going to pull that over if we don't do anything about it. So this is one spot on our property where it does stress us out a little bit. We do keep it clipped a little bit around the things that we don't want it to topple over, but we also realize that we have to be patient and trust that this may work itself out. And if it doesn't, we can manage it, but it's a small area. Stuff like this is impossible to completely eradicate, so really it's just about managing it so that you get the results you want, which is going to be different for all people. Us, we're a little less heavy-handed than some others, but when it comes down to it, we will do a little bit of management to promote the things we are trying to achieve, both for us and for critters. I wanted to end on a note here that even though we say we do everything for wildlife, obviously we don't, because we like to be inspired as we live here. And we're starting to see these native plants stitched together into really pretty, pleasing scenarios for us. And here's a fence that you can see underneath here, kind of an old wire fence, but a grapevine, probably brought in by catbirds from another grapevine that was producing grapes and seeds. Deposited it here sitting on the fence, and within 2 or 3 years we have this great landscape feature with this grapevine twining along the top of this fence and just creating a really cool vegetative border. And so another benefit of just hitting pause, waiting, observing, and taking a lighter hand on management. We have a lot of other vines here, which maybe we'll do more videos on vines because they are so important for wildlife and for your soul. But for now, just remember, if you're stressed out about vines, it's like puberty. You'll get over it. Signing off.